this week's episode, I sat down with Lucy Busk, co-founder of Nice Wines, alongside her partner, Jeremy May. Although she was destined to found Nice, she began her career producing and selling birch and muesli with a friend. Facing the challenges of a chilled supply chain, she quickly pivoted to offer her sales consultancy skills to several challenger brands, including some featured on the podcast, like Ollie's. This experience led her to found Nice in 2018, though her love for wine started at a very young age. Nice has pioneered canned wine, targeting a younger, more dynamic audience. Lucy's innovative approach quickly paid off, establishing the brand as a market leader. With over 1,000 stocking points, it's no wonder Nice has won various awards, including a silver medal at the International Wine and Spirit Competition. So, would you like to tell me a little bit about what you were doing before Nice Wines and how the idea and the concept came to be?
Yes, well thank you so much for having me. I'm a massive fan of your podcast, so it's really amazing to be here. So before I launched Nice, so going sort of a little way back, I graduated from Newcastle University where I studied fine art, and then I was going to pursue a career in interior design, and I was just catching up with a friend after the summer, catching up on what we were both going to be doing, and she mentioned that she was writing a business plan for an on-the-go breakfast idea. And as soon as she said it to me, I just got a sort of warm, fuzzy feeling inside, and I had a real urge to just join her on it. So I said, well, that sounds really cool, sort of screw interior design, would you like to start working on that together? And we very naively went about building and launching a brand called Cuckoo, which made on-the-go chilled birch and muesli pots. So if you've ever been skiing, you probably had birch and muesli.
Yeah.
We drove all around the country finding factories, we raised money, we started building the brand look and feel with B&B studios. And before we knew it, we were launching our products into Whole Foods, and then we took the very traditional startup route of launching with Selfridges, Harvey Nichols, and then later on slightly bigger customers like Waitrose and Sainsbury's and Ocado. And I fell in love with food and drink, and I fell in love with sales. I feel like I'm the sort of person like yourself that was born to be a salesperson. And so I ran that company for 4 years, and I had a lot of highs and a lot of lows. It's really challenging, as you know, at Coconut Collaborative, working with a chilled product with a short shelf life. But I had an amazing time doing it. It was the best business school I ever could have gone to over a 4-year period. And after 4 years of running the company, we eventually ended up selling it, which sounds really glamorous when you say you sold your business. It was not glamorous at all. I didn't make any money from it, but I just look back at it with so much fondness and gratitude for everything that I learned, and the fact that it got me into this incredible industry that I will never leave. I will never do anything other than food and drink.
I so can just say exactly the same thing. Yeah, I'll never leave it.
It's brilliant. And so after that, I didn't fancy going to work for anyone else because I'd never really worked for anyone else, obviously other than waitressing and things in the holidays at university. So I decided to start doing a bit of consulting on a really casual basis, helping SME food and drink businesses. So my first few clients were Doisy and Dan, Olivia's Kitchen, Ollie's Olives, and I just helped them really understand their sales strategy, how to build a route to market plan, how to pitch to a Tesco. And sort of before I knew it, I was a year in, I was working with so many amazing different businesses, having a really great time. And it was in year 2 that I met Jeremy, my now co-founder of Nice. He was leaving Proper, having built their international business, and he was also looking to do some consulting, so we were connected to become friends. And on the 3rd time of meeting Jeremy, I'd become a little bit, I loved the consulting, I loved the people that I was working with, but I wasn't really being challenged anymore. I could just do it in my sleep. And for me, work is all about really being thrown out of my comfort zone and being challenged. So I was really ready to go again. So I said to Jeremy, would you like to set up a business together? And we went from there, and I can go into more of that, but you might want to ask that question later.
Gosh, okay, so I didn't actually realise that you had started a business before Nice. Is that business still going?
No, it's not still going. So we actually sold it to a company called Windmill Organics, and it was sort of going on the way out, and they mentioned they wanted to buy the brand and bring it back to life. They never have. They might one day, but no, it's not still going. Okay, but what an amazing journey, and also gosh, so lucky to have almost test and learn.
before you start a brand? Because actually a lot of my founders haven't had your experience and they've gone straight in and been testing and learning. Of course, we're still testing and learning every day with Nice, but to have had like that proper initial to kind of 4-year business of test and learn before you started would have been really fascinating.
It's amazing, and I feel very lucky that both Jeremy and I, when we started Nice, we did have a lot of experience. We had a really good network, so things like raising the money to launch wasn't as difficult as maybe some other brands would have found it, because we were able to go to investors and say, we know what we're doing, you know, we've worked with Sainsbury's, we've worked with Tesco. And yeah, just knowing what a route to market is, knowing what a wholesaler is, just knowing how it all works. We had to learn a lot about alcohol, but it did make a massive difference. Doing it second time around is really different.
Yeah, I guess also like the jargon. So like, you know, rate of sale, things that we know in the back of our head, like, of course you know what that is, but you know, for other people in starting a business, they might be like, well, what does define it? Like, what, you know, what does it actually mean? And I think that, that's where you probably have like such a big advantage at the start.
We did. We still obviously make
absolutely, and also that you need to kind of continue to learn.
Yeah, we did, and just even knowing some buyers, like, you know, knowing the Sainsbury's buyer already, it just helps, because these guys are inundated with people contacting them.
Of course, my gosh, I couldn't even imagine a buyer's inbox. It would stress me out, because I like to file everything, so I can imagine them just like the inbound inquiries they must get. But it's hard when you're small, because you don't have, you know, a massive voice at this point, and you do have a fantastic product, and so many other brands have amazing products, but at the end of the day, and in Waitrose defence and Tesco's defence, they have a finite amount of space that, you know, you really have to fight your corner to say, this is why I deserve my place, and, you know, this is what I'm bringing to the category that's different and fun and exciting. At the start, what would you say was some of the, well actually no, not at the start, what would you say have been some of the biggest challenges as like an entrepreneur?
Oh wow, big question. So I think there are so many different ways that you can look at it and answer it, but looking at it with my sort of sales head on, because sales has very much always been my role in both of my businesses. I think one of the biggest challenges at the beginning, I describe it like a wheel. It's like getting that sales wheel going, and you've got to really push so hard on it and put so much energy behind it. Getting those first few people to believe in your brand and your business. And with my business Nice, at the beginning we were selling canned wine, which was such a new concept in the UK. We were selling it into a very traditional, pretty old school world of the wine industry. And so just getting people to believe in it and give us a chance was really challenging. And then once you do start to get those first few listings over the line and you can build case studies, you know, things come. But I think that's always one of the biggest challenges in any business that's selling a product, is getting things going at the beginning. And then I would say another one is just the constant firefighting that you have to be doing as an entrepreneur, a business owner, in any business, probably a startup and a scale up. You have a fire come and hit you, and you put all of your energy into putting it out, and you have 1 second to chill and rest, and then there's another fire going on over there. But that's also what I love so much about running a business like mine. There's just always a challenge and always something going on.
Yeah, and speaking of, as you said, canning your wine, which obviously was at the time a very new concept, how did your first ever meeting go when you first showed it to a potential customer and you showed them a canned wine?
So our first proper meeting was with Sainsbury's, and this was at the time when the Future Brands programme had really just launched. And so we got introduced to the Future Brands programme and got introduced to the wine bar at Sainsbury's. And it was an incredibly positive meeting. I think it probably helped that the buyer was sort of the same age as us, and she said to us, my category is in decline, because wine is in decline. It's not working that hard to recruit the next generation of wine drinkers. The wine category is confusing, it's intimidating. I'm sure you've stood in the wine aisle at the supermarket and thought, where do I go? What shall I pick? You may recognise a Pinot Grigio label from a holiday you had in Italy and pick that, but it's intimidating, and so people avoid wine and they go to the beer categories and the gin categories that are working so hard to bring new consumers and the next generation of drinkers into the category. So our buyer said to us, my category's in decline. If you guys can bring younger, new consumers into the category, disrupt and shake things up, the listing is yours. And she was really bought in from that first meeting, which is amazing, because then we were able to work with her to source the source the right wine, bring her on the journey of us developing the brand, and really make her feel like she's part of the journey. Amazing. Which is a really amazing thing to do with buyers.
Yeah, that's fantastic, actually. And I guess you're right, buyers are people at the same time, and obviously it can be it's a decision by a human being, so it's hard to bring someone in on board, but the fact that she was so open to it is amazing, and it gave you so much confidence as well in your product that you were doing something fun. And being disruptive is really key, and almost now I'd say you actually need to now be more than disruptive, because so many brands are disruptive. People are disrupting the cereal category, people are disrupting the breakfast category, every chocolate category. So many brands that I can think of that are being disruptive and loud with their marketing, and it's now, how do you actually do something different now, because everyone is trying so hard.
It's noisy out there.
It's very noisy out there, so how do you make yourself noisy but not just in a sea of noise? So that's a really interesting thing, concept and kind of thought process that I'd love to speak to a marketeer about. How do you do that? But speaking of marketing strategies, I love your pink boiler suits. I am so here for them. Every time I see them out, I'm this is so much fun. And how did you kind of envision the brand when you started? Because it's a similar, I see it with a couple of brands, but yours in particular, the boiler suit is so recognisable, and I think it makes me there's nice. You got the bucket hats,
it's our best and most powerful marketing asset ever. Yeah,
I literally just think of that when I think of you guys.
I know, everyone does. So with the branding side of things, so mine and Jeremy's experience is very much sort of commercial, salesy. The branding and marketing side of things was always the bit at the beginning where we felt neither founder, it was really our sort of strength and our skill set. So we knew from day one that we wanted to get some great help in building a really good brand, and we worked with an agency that very sadly don't exist anymore, but a really awesome small agency in Shoreditch, of course. It was all very hands-on, and we were very involved, but it was very much them that built the brand, built the identity, built the pink core colour, suggested that we really lean into the strong female-led business, funny tone of voice. So I can't take any credit for that, but what I do find funny, and people that know me really well know that I love pink. I have loved pink my entire life.
Oh, you're preaching to the choir, which is funny because I'm not in pink today, but pink
I'm
and
not
red
in pink today, but
my favourite colours.
Me too.
Yeah.
I mean, my engagement ring's pink and red, my wedding dress was pink, everything I own is pink. So it was funny when they presented this very pink brand, and I think people that know me really well probably thought that it was me driving that, but it wasn't at all, it was them. But the jumpsuits I will take credit for, because I have got 10 pink boiler suits or jumpsuits in my wardrobe. I've worn them for years. And when we launched Nice and it came to our first sampling, and obviously everyone turns up in the branded t-shirt, it was my idea to go with the pink jumpsuits and get them with the logos on, and they have been, as you say, the most powerful thing. They bring so much energy and joy and stand out. A big mantra of ours is to lead and to not follow, and to really try and do things differently, and I think they just embody all of that, so they're going nowhere.
I think it gives your brand such personality. It shows to consumers that you're fun and that you are exciting and you're young and you're vibrant, and I feed off that already from meeting you, and so it's just a perfect synergy.
It is. It also makes you stand out against the rest of the wine industry so much. So just to give an example, I've just got back from Provine in Germany, which is the biggest wine show in the entire world. So think of the London XL, it is literally 15 times that, and it is just room after room of Bordeaux and Burgundies and suits, and everything looks the same. And we were there on our stand in our pink jumpsuits, and it just immediately makes you stand out, makes people remember you, notice you, kind of want to talk to you, because you are so different from the rest of the industry. We got a couple of some death stares from a couple of very old school wine people, but generally on the whole, people loved the energy that we were bringing to that show.
Yeah, I mean, there are always going to be people, and you're right, the wine industry is very old school. It's very gentleman, that kind of gives me that, it gives off that vibe. So you coming in and disrupting it is obviously going to turn heads, but you need to turn heads. Like it's how you kind of stand out. And at the start, did you identify like the gap in the market initially, or did you think actually as you were doing it, you were like, okay, there's this gap, and actually we're going to funnel and do more of this or more of this?
Yeah, so it's really interesting how our business has developed in what our objectives have been, and also our product ranges. So just to take you on that journey a little bit. So Jeremy and I decided on the third time of meeting that we'd love to set up a business together. We knew that it would be in food and drink for the reasons we've already established, would never do anything else. We knew two things. We wanted to either create a new category, just like Vita Coco did with coconut water. Coconut water didn't really exist until they came along. Or we wanted to disrupt an already very big category like Brewdog did. Beer's been a thing forever, but they just came in and did things differently. And we decided to go to Expo West to see what was going on, see what the trends were.
It's on now, isn't it?
Yeah, I've never been, still down to
Gosh, it's like the Excel, like you just said, for the Pro Wine, but this one was, I think I did like 40,000 steps a day.
Yeah, I'm dying to go, really want to go. But we didn't get that far because a week later I was scrolling through Instagram and I spotted a wine in a can. And as soon as I saw it, I had the same feeling I had when my friend told me about her Berkshire muesli idea. I was crazed. I was so obsessed. I couldn't sleep for like 3 days. I traced that can back to America and I saw that canned wine in America was exploding. I'd never heard or seen of canned wine before. And as a consumer of wine, I just could immediately imagine myself drinking it on a train, at a festival, all of those moments when a bottle of wine is really inconvenient. And then I looked into, walked around the supermarkets and I saw that it was all of the space was being taken up by the mini plastic bottles of wine, that single-use plastic, they're not functional, you don't drink those on the go. And I really sort of started to see how stuffy and intimidating wine was, and I thought there is a huge opportunity here to really disrupt the category, do what Brewdog did for beer in wine, offer consumers a wine brand that's far more inclusive, doesn't use intimidating wine language that no one understands, doesn't take itself too seriously because it's wine at the end of the day, and is fun and functional and female first. And so I presented the idea to Jeremy and I was so nervous. Honestly, when you text someone that you really like and you're like waiting for them to reply.
Oh, agony.
I felt like that and he replied instantly. We found the old WhatsApps the other day and he said, this is so cool, let's meet up. And then we started working on it. But at the very beginning, our business was a canned wine business, and that is what people know us for today. But what's happened in the 5 years since launching is we've seen so many other wine moments where the industry just isn't thinking about the consumer and all of the different wine needs. So we've since launched Wine on Tap, which is just like you go to the pub and you have beer on a keg. It's wine, so that's helping with speed of service, wastage, not having to deal with glass bottles. We've got wine in boxes. And then we've launched a 3.4% session Sauvignon Blanc and Merlot. That launched earlier this year. And that's come about because wine is delicious and amazing, but it's high in alcohol. It's 13%. And as a consumer, you can have one glass and you can feel a bit drunk. You can have a headache and feel hungover the next day.
I'm such a lightweight, so one glass of wine and I'm
the same. I never would drink wine in the weekdays because of that. And in the beer and spirits categories, we've seen incredible options for anyone looking to moderate or cut alcohol altogether. And we felt that wine had been totally left behind again. So we launched a lower alcohol wine that has a lot of the qualities and flavour cues as full strength wine, and that's launched this year, and that's a range I'm really excited about.
Yeah, that is exciting. And so that will be in glass bottles?
It's in glass bottles, and it's going on to Ocado. It'll be on Ocado by the time this airs, and then our web shop, and then we're pretty much talking to all of the major players about it.
Amazing, that's so exciting. I love when you start up with an initial concept and then the developments of it and how it diversifies and how it changes. Like that's a really exciting journey as well that your brand could go on, because I started out doing this, but actually now there's a need for that. And as you said, that you see these opportunities that you didn't see to start with.
It's cool. We love new products at NICE and being all over trends and just jumping on things very quickly. Another mantra of ours is to be like a dog, which just means to move very fast.
Yeah, I can relate to the fast-paced life. And you're a mum. and you're a female founder, which I feel like are two challenges that are, well, massive challenges. I don't have my own children, so I can't relate to that. But I guess I am technically a female founder of like a podcast, not in terms of like a product but a service. And I know the struggles to like get things off the ground and get it going. But how do you find navigating being a mum, having a business, and being a female founder? That is a lot in one question. So like, feel free to dissect as you wish.
Okay, so I'll dissect. Maybe start with the mum thing first. So I became a mum last April, which was amazing. I've got a little girl called Electra, and she's incredible.
Oh, gorgeous name.
She's nearly walking. She's going to be one this year, so in a month. So I've been very lucky. Being a working mum and having my own business, it has been really challenging because I have my real baby Electra, and then I have my first baby, which is nice. And when you launch a business, as you know with your podcast, it really is your baby. You have, you have done everything to bring it to life. So it has been really challenging. I also feel whenever you're talking about being a mom, I feel like one has to say that just everyone has different ways of doing things and everyone has had different experiences. So I can only talk about my experience, but on the whole, I feel like I've been really lucky. I feel like I've been really lucky for a few reasons. I had a relatively straightforward birth. I chose to have an elective cesarean, so it was sort of quite easy from the get-go. There are so many horror stories out there, and I was fortunate that I didn't go through one of those. I then had an amazing co-founder, Jeremy, who is just the most supportive male. I think I told him I was pregnant before I told my mum, and from that moment I told him, he just couldn't have been more brilliant and just made me feel like everything was going to be okay, because it was quite scary finding out I was pregnant. Although I felt very lucky, it was scary with the business.
Yeah.
And then thirdly, I have an incredible husband who has zero ego whatsoever, and it was always sort of agreed with us that when I had the baby, I wouldn't really take maternity leave in the sort of normal sense of maternity leave, and I would still be working on Nice and running Nice, and he's just done everything from the moment our daughter was born to just support me and step into that role. And he's still working at the same time. He's a farmer, so he's looking after her. She's on the farm.
Oh.
So I've been really well supported, which not everyone has when they have a baby. At times it can feel really overwhelming, and at times it's difficult to be present when I'm with my daughter. I'm thinking about work and vice versa. So I don't have it all, perfectly down to a T, but it's a journey I'm going through, and on the whole I feel like I've been really lucky. My team have been supportive, my chairman's been supportive. She's a relatively easy baby, she sleeps through the night, so I feel like someone's looking down on me at the heavens and giving me a good time.
Yeah, because as you said, I'm sure so many people have so many different experiences to you, and it is really tough and don't have the support. So yeah, I think it's fascinating. Like it's really interesting, and I think there's so much more that we're going to see of this now, because female founders are really well supported now. There's a lot in place to make sure that there are these communities in place, and Whole Foods have recently done that amazing For Women Built,
By Women
Built. And when you step back and you look at it and you're like, gosh, that's quite phenomenal. Like when you see all the brands in one spot and you saw it like that, it was really lovely to see, and it really made you, that as a woman myself, it was like, gosh, we're a cool bunch of people to hang out with.
Yeah, and actually that's probably something else I'd say. I feel really lucky. I've got an amazing network in this industry. I've got a brilliant female group with Emma Heel, who's the MD of Lucky Saint, and Pip Murray, the founder of Pip and Nut, and Vivian from Little Moons. And actually Pip and I both had babies at the same time, and we both were going through scary things at the same time. So to have her to go for breakfast with, and I had lunch with her this week, we still talk about it a lot, but to have Emma Heel, who's already got children, just saying, guys, it's all going to be okay. It was so amazing, and I still lean on that group of women very often.
Yeah, I think that's another thing, like having some very supportive friends and ones that you can relate to as well. Like, as you said, they've been through very similar things and stuff with businesses, and that support that you get from friends it's really nice. Obviously you've got your husband, but you lean on him in a very different way that you lean on a mate, so it's nice to have that support. And I think actually it's one of those things that we probably don't lean on our friends when we should as much. Like you think of your mum and your partner and everything, but actually utilise your network and make sure that you are saying, I need help here, or I I want to do this, can you support? So what other strategies would you say that you kind of put in place to support being a mum, but being a founder, also having a social life, exercising, like taking care of yourself? What would you say for anybody listening in that might be a mum and thinking about starting a business, or already is a mum and has a business? What would you say are kind of like the key strategies you would do?
So the exercise is definitely the one I've just had to let go, because I feel like there's only so many plates you can spin, and I love exercise and it's always been a really important thing for me, but I have definitely let that go a little bit since having a baby, because there are just only so many hours in the day. But it's a big ambition for me to kind of start bringing that back, and I'm putting the plans in place to do that. I do have a dog, which is a great strategy because you literally have to walk the dog every day. So I guess that's my exercise, but I more mean like really sweating exercise.
Yeah.
I have Benji, my amazing husband, and then I'm really lucky we have a nanny as well, just for a couple of days a week. So we've got that additional support. I've got my amazing female group, and I guess that's probably it for me. And
it's a lot though.
Yeah, that's a lot. And then at the weekends for me, it's just all about
really just go there?
Yeah, it's doing nothing, cooking, which I love. You know, enjoying a nice glass of wine. So I'm going out for lunch with some friends tomorrow, but it's about just making sure it's not really hectic and busy.
Yeah, definitely. I think it's a really, especially being in London, we all live very fast-paced lives. So actually taking the time to just stop and breathe is something that we're really bad at.
And trying to leave my phone at the weekends, which I do because I'm always with my daughter now. So just putting my phone aside, because I just feel that it's just constant, isn't it? There's a constant notification on something.
Yeah, there's always something that's going on that you can sit there and look at and read. Yeah, it is tricky to stop. As wine is obviously very male dominated. It's very heavy, as we were speaking about. It's quite old man-y. How have you had any kind of like really big challenges as being a woman in a very heavily male dominated industry, and how you kind of overcame them?
So yeah, I've got really positive things to say about the wine industry and the men in it, and I feel really lucky that I've generally worked with men that are really supportive of women, and really supportive of what our business is trying to do in terms of making sure the next generation of wine drinkers are being recruited into the category. So on the whole, I've felt really supported. I've been in some really funny meetings with incredibly old school wine guys who have literally been in the industry for like their whole life. And they've sat there with me, and I'm in my pink jumpsuit, and I'm in a room that's just full of, you know, Bordeaux posters. It's so old school. And they've said, gosh, if you told me 40 years ago I'd be sitting here with a girl in a pink jumpsuit selling me wine in a can, I would have laughed. But they have recognised this is what the industry needs. I feel really lucky, and I don't know where this came from, but I can completely understand when a woman walks into a room full of men. I so understand why that could be really intimidating. I don't know why, but I have always, when that's happened to me, I have always found that really exciting, because as the only woman in the room, that automatically means that I just have a different opinion and I will think about things in a different way. So when that happens, I sort of flip it on its head, and I see that as a great opportunity to speak up, make sure my voice is heard, and I see it as a positive, exciting thing.
That's such a lovely way to like think about it, because I'm quite similar to that. I rarely see it as a challenge, and I don't mean that to sound as it comes out my mouth and how someone might perceive that, but it is more of a, actually, let's look at this as an opportunity, and a big opportunity to change some like big strong opinions, versus being like, oh, my voice is never going to be heard, what's the point? I'm like, no, I want this challenge, and actually how can I fit this? Yeah, that's a really good point. And so with those challenges, were there any moments where you thought, and you were in these types of rooms with all these kind of men, and obviously there might have been women as well at the same time, but where you had that feeling that you had about your first business, and then when you saw the canned wine, when you kind of had that tummy feel like, I've cracked it, I've got them in, they know what I'm doing and they like it and they're on board?
I mean, I guess now I'm 5 years in, and I've built some really amazing relationships with some really old wine merchants that have literally been going for, I don't know, however many years. Yeah. And I think maybe I have that when I had one ring me today, their name flashes up, and they're ringing me about something, and I do think that's that's really cool. I've built these really strong, great relationships. We're such a different supplier from all the other suppliers. You know, they don't get other suppliers turning up in the pink jumpsuit. So I never realised I had that feeling, but you've maybe just made me realise I do, if that makes sense.
Yeah, I think, that feeling is when you get that person that calls you and you're like, okay, I impacted them, like they're calling me in. I think just, going back to the pink boiler suits, like you are making an impact and it's being heard and it's being seen, so I can, you're definitely doing something that other people in wine are certainly not doing. And speak to me a little bit about your team and how you built that out, because I had a couple of I had the These Days guys on the podcast earlier, and we were speaking about how you never really want to be the kind of smartest woman in the room when it comes to your own business, because you always want to hire in people that are doing better things than you and can bring something that you can't. So there's no point hiring like two Lucys that are phenomenal at like that part of sales, because you're just going to be against each other really, whereas you need someone that might be, that's better at that kind of thing. So talk to me a little bit about how you kind of broadened and built out your team.
So when I talk about the nice team, it definitely can make me feel emotional, because it is the best thing about the business by a mile. So we have just built the most incredible team of 13 people. Every single one of them I love as a person. We're all really best friends at night. We are in the office every single day. We are family. We are cheerleaders to one another. There's no competitiveness. It's really all spurring each other on, and I'm so proud of the culture that we've built in the company. It's just fantastic. And I think the secret to it has been building a really values and mantras-led business. So there are a few really core values and mantras that we live by, and we have to make sure that anyone that joins our business is really comfortable with those and is going to fit in with that way of living and working. So our 4 values and mantras are, so direct feedback is our love language, be a dog, which essentially means to move very fast, hustle hard, and lead and don't follow. So we do a really good job at NICE at explaining what the value of them is. So just maybe to pick out a couple, the direct feedback is our love language. So the best way of explaining this is, so say we were talking right now and you've got a piece of spinach in your tooth, okay? You've got no idea that spinach is there, and it's embarrassing, and I can see that it's there, and I'm thinking...
I'm now thinking...
No, you don't have any spinach in your tooth. I'm thinking, do I tell her? Because it's going to really embarrass her in the moment, but I can't let her walk around with spinach all day in her tooth. So I will say, Zoe, you've got some spinach in your tooth, and you'll be mortified. You'll say, oh gosh, okay, is it out? And I'll say, yeah, it's out, it's fine. And how relieved will you be that I've told you?
Yeah, very.
So that's how we look at feedback. So feedback in our business is just part of the everyday. There are just so many different opportunities to give people feedback. As founders, we get so much feedback from everyone and anyone, and the value to it is that you're just constantly improving. And we have to hire people that are really comfortable with feedback, so that means they've got a massive growth mindset, which is obviously what you want in a startup. So that's one value. And then maybe just to explain one more, the being a dog, moving really fast. The value to that is that it's such a huge competitive advantage over much bigger businesses that are like slow oil rigs that take 2 years to launch MPD. Being a startup, being nimble, just being able to do things so quickly. Like, we decided to launch a new product, we've launched it a month later. We're ahead of the whole rest of the market. That's also super important to us. So everyone in our business just lives and breathes these set of values and mantras. It's a flat hierarchical system. We're big on feedback. I've just been in an hour-long meeting with someone giving me so much great feedback on how we can improve the runnings of the company. We treat our staff well. We're a human-first business. We don't have rules around compassionate leave or anything. We take each situation on a case-by-case basis. We reward people well. So I think those are sort of some of the ways in which we've built a great team.
Gosh, where do I sign up? Literally, it's out. I think change and leadership definitely comes from the top, and how you act infiltrates so much into your employees, and it gives them either, I really want to really work hard for this person, or I'm going to rebel. And by those values, I can't see why anybody would want to rebel. You'd want to be super hardworking. You'd want to be like, Lucy gets it. She gets me. She's taken me, as you said, as a people. I'm a human being. So feedback is necessary, but as constructive. It's not just you did that crap and then you walk away. No. Tell me why and how can I improve? And I agree about the growth mindset. You need to have that. You need to have that thinking, especially in a startup, because we are making mistakes all the time. Like, it's kind of the unknown. We still don't know like, what's going to happen, and we don't have the backing of like really deep pockets like a Unilever, where you know you've got so much experience in a business and there's red tape and etc. We have to be very reactive, and there's a lot of stuff that we have to really work on that is amazing when you've got a founder in place that can understand that and give the realm of like give that person like kind of like the boundaries, but also so much creative boundaries to be like, go and do this and let's chat about it after. So it breeds just the most amazing person. So I can see how like you've got such an amazing team. Like I don't think you're gosh, what's the word when your employee turnover must be like 0.1%.
No, we've had some people leave because they want to go and do other things. I think that every business has people leave, but yeah, I love our team. I cannot speak more highly of them. I feel so honoured to get to work with them all.
And how is the team split? So how many's in like marketing and finance? And
so we've got the bulk in sales, as any business that's selling a product would do. So I think we've got 5 in the on-trade team, 2 in the off-trade team, 3 in the marketing team, 2 in the ops team. I think I've forgotten someone.
Okay, yeah, it's quite well, it's like very well distributed.
Yeah.
I think you're right, like sales is like you need like lots of people's feet on the street.
Yeah.
Speaking of feet on the street, actually, did you have a big field sales approach at the start of getting it in pubs and bars and that? Was that kind of at the start, was it there, or was it more like retail? As you said, I know your first meeting was with Sainsbury's, so that was a lot of it, but your strategy and your sales split.
Yeah, so we've never had a field sales team at NICE. I don't know if that's had something to do with the fact that our second year COVID hit, and I feel like field sales, it just all changed to email, phone, Instagram. But our sort of sales strategy it's everything. It's out of home, it's grocery, it's on trade. It's travel. There isn't really a channel we don't go after, but we do a lot of it office based, and then we do have members of the sales team going out and doing feet on the street, but we don't have a full field sales team.
Yeah. And other than what you told me, how else does NICE, how is it like set apart from the competition in wine? Because I think there's so much innovation going on in this space at the moment, and you guys are the first to bring it, but there is also lots of other canned wines popping up as well. So how do you keep your competitive edge and make sure that what you're doing still has its uniqueness?
Yeah, so it's a good question. I think brand is one answer.
I really love the brand.
Thank you. So just making sure our brand's the best, working really hard, leaning into things that we can really protect, like our tone of voice, which can act as a really strong USP, keeping our marketing really fun, really disruptive, always making sure we're improving on it and doing the next big thing that can make noise. I think we're still one of the only B Corp wine businesses in the world. There aren't that many that are like B Corp. Making sure we're all over new products. So we started as a canned wine brand, but as I mentioned, we saw so many other opportunities to give consumers a better liquid and a better vessel for that wine moment. So just making sure we're always thinking about the consumer and always all over those trends.
And what other strategies, how do you kind of grow, what's your kind of strategy for growth, and how do you see the next kind of like 3 to 5 years planning out for you guys?
Yeah, so when it comes to growth, we've got a number of different strategies. So the first would just be selling more products in our existing customers, so just boosting our rate of sales. Yeah. Second would be a lot of our growth is going to come from our new product ranges, some of which I mentioned today, some of which might not have even launched by the time this podcast goes live. And then the third would be new markets. So Jeremy's entire experience is building brands in international markets. So I think people feel really surprised by the fact that NICE is still UK based, but because he's got a lot of experience, he knows the only way to be successful in exporting is to build a very strong UK case study. I think a lot of businesses go for export way too early, before they've even built a footprint in the UK, and that is not setting themselves up for success. So it's only now, this year, that we're starting to export, so a lot of the growth will come from new markets.
And where do you see like the export kind of taking you in terms of like markets? Is if you've got a particular Europe, I mean, you don't have the issue that I have with shelf life, which is a nightmare.
Yeah, we have no shelf life.
Yeah, I mean, it's fantastic. Like, I'm working sometimes with 15 to 16 days, so it's got to come in and out pretty quick. So I can't imagine working with no shelf. Like, that's phenomenal.
It's amazing. Yeah, it's amazing. So it makes export really easy. So I think to begin with, we're going to be looking at the European market, particularly the Nordics, and then the Asian market. We are not going to go anywhere near the American market. That is not of interest to Jeremy or I. So that's where we'll be focusing to begin with.
It drains a lot of money, I think, US, because you have to treat each state like a country. Yeah. And you've got to diversify.
That's for someone else to do.
Yeah, I agree. It is a massive task. And where do you think the wine industry is going? Like, what do you think are the kind of the key trends that are coming up? And where do you see it going?
Oh, well, I hope that there are more businesses like ours that continue to have a focus on sustainability, because the wine industry in general is a really carbon intensive industry. And then I hope that there are more brands that are really focused on working hard to bring in the next generation of wine drinkers, because I don't think that is being done to the best of its ability. So I really hope that we see more of that and we can recruit new people into the category. It feels like Beer and Spirits have been having all the fun there, but that's certainly what really excites me.
I think, you're right. There needs to be lots more injection and that kind of fun and bringing it to life.
Yeah, I'd like to see more women and more diversity as well.
Yeah.
It's a really undiverse industry.
Yeah, I think food and drink at the moment, I mean, we're starting to see a lot of it now, actually, and as I say that, I probably regret starting a sentence like that, because we are seeing a lot more of it, but it is still very
white.
Yes, it is still very white. So I think it would be lovely to see more diversity and kind of get more brands on. And there are loads of like communities out there that are doing it and encouraging it, and so that's amazing to see. But
and it will help any business, because the more different brains and thoughts you have, the better for your business in bringing more consumers in.
Yeah.
So.
And your growth at Nice has been amazing, like your turnover and how you've grown, and like the percentage growth that you grow by year on year is fantastic. Were there any like specific decisions or things that you thought that put us on the map, or like internal decisions that you made, or Sainsbury's listing you obviously would have been a big one, but anything that you can that springs to mind that you're like, that changed the like trajectory of the business?
Yeah, so it would be Virgin Atlantic and winning the listing with them. So we've got a 4-year deal with Virgin Atlantic, whereby if you fly economy or premium economy and you want a wine, we are the only wine available. So they have 5 million passengers fly with them every single year. So it's basically sampling, because the amount of people that try your product, love it, and then go to Sainsbury's and buy it is incredible. And it's really helped us. It's helped us with having that business behind us. The amount of people, the amount of buyers that have been on a Virgin flight and tried it and then wanted to talk to us or work with us, it's a fantastic listing to have. So that was a big game changer for us, and they are just the most brilliant business to work with. They are so entrepreneurial, they are so supportive, they're wonderful.
Yeah, the Virgin is such a lovely company.
And you work with them as well, don't you?
Yeah, Coconut Club are aboard as the free economy dessert. And it puts you on the map, game changes the P&L quite quickly. Yeah, it was fantastic. I can relate to that listing when it was massive.
Yeah.
And they are so, our buyer's a lovely lady called Harry.
Yeah, she's amazing.
Yeah, and then you have,
we've got Shader. So we go for lunch with Harry and Shader. We should do a lunch together.
Harry is so nice.
Yeah.
She's getting on the pod, because I want to talk all things.
You should get Shader on as well.
Okay, yeah.
They're lovely.
Okay.
We should go for lunch.
Definitely. She's, they're such great. And I got in touch with Harry in lockdown because she had her curry business, and I said, you should use yogurt for your curries. And then it just transpired, and I was like, gosh, actually, can I talk to you about dessert? And she was like, yeah. And I was like, can we do this? She was like, I'm so excited. Like, as you, I can imagine going in big boiler suits, and then I've got similar energy, and they just put in from day one, and they were like, right, let's do it. And now we are the dessert on board, and it's like, gosh, it's so fun to see, and how many touch points it creates for customers. Yeah, it puts you on the map and the trajectory. It's amazing. And they're such a great brand to work with. They really care about like small businesses, and they put you first, and it's really lovely. So really interesting. Looking back, what kind of really valuable lessons have you learned of being a founder, and what would you say would be the one thing that you might have done slightly differently?
Okay, so there are so many valuable lessons, but going into my sort of growth mindset mentality, another big sort of value at Nice is to just be really curious. And I think that's just one of the biggest lessons from the beginning, is to just be really curious and be really polite with it. So I'll sort of explain what I mean. So I look back to when I first launched my first business, Cuckoo, and I honestly didn't even know what a wholesaler was, I didn't know what a margin was, I didn't know anything. And I remember walking around Whole Foods and just seeing the brands that I sort of liked the look of. And at the time it was Jimmy's Iced Coffee, it was Joe and Cess, but when those brands had just launched, I just remember looking on the packaging, seeing a mobile phone number, ringing the founder, Jimmy, answer the phone and saying like, hi, I've got this idea, like how do you get into Whole Foods? And I cannot tell you how amazing they were. I mean, Jimmy is a great friend of mine still from that very first phone call, so is Adam from Joe and Cess. They just helped me, and each person led me to another person, and I'd always thank them so much for their time. I'm really hot on manners and just being polite. And that taught me to just ask for help, just ask. People actually love being asked for help. It's a compliment that you're going to them to say, you know more than me, please will you help me? And so I think that's the most valuable lesson. And still now, today, if I don't know something, if we're about to launch with a new customer and I can see that Moju work with them or you work with them at the Collaborative, I just message you and say, Zoe, can you just chat to me for 10 minutes about how they work? And not being afraid to ask for help is just one of the most valuable lessons, but always saying thank you.
Nice, I like that one, because I think ask for help is something that we're told to do a lot more, but it's really hard. But nobody on the podcast has come and said, say thank you. And actually, yeah, you need to say thank you, because it makes them feel appreciated and they're likely to go and help you again.
Exactly. Okay, so I'm a really big, I don't know if I do anything differently, or maybe there's one thing I do differently. I'm a big fan of mistakes. I just think making mistakes is a really positive, good thing. As long as you're then not making the same mistake over and over again, that's when there's a problem. But I've had some of my biggest areas of growth from making mistakes, but I think probably one mistake we did make at Nice that I probably would change, because we'd have a little bit more money on our bank balance, was that I think sometimes in this world, in any world, you can get a little bit overexcited by the big agencies that promise you the earth, and you turn up and they've got the cool coffee machines and it's all really exciting. And we worked with two big agencies separately, so we did make the same mistake twice. We will not make it again, and it just wasn't the right fit. It's nothing against those people, they're amazing, talented people, but we're such a nimble, dog-like startup that just do things so differently, and it just so wasn't a right fit. It was really poor judgment from us. So that's a mistake that I won't make again.
And are there some key values and principles that you kind of live and breathe by, other than you have literally spoken about so many, something's probably quite hard for me to hold this discussion, but you would say that make a very successful entrepreneur?
I think for me it's all about just energy. I just really try and bring a really good, positive, upbeat energy to everything I do. Now, that is not always easy if you haven't had a good night's sleep or you're stressed and overwhelmed, which I feel loads of the time, like a lot of human beings do. But just really try and bring the energy, treat people well, be nice, be polite. Our business is called Nice. We really do try and do business in the right way, treat my team well, I'd be grateful to them, and just be a good person. I think gone are the days where you used to be told, oh, you've got to be really mean to be successful in business. I have never believed that. I have never lived that way. I believe the total opposite.
Yeah, I think in fashion, that industry is very much like you need to be mean to get somewhere.
Dog eat dog, it's not for me.
Yeah, I agree, it's not for me either. I've done my time in fashion and I will not be entering the industry anymore. It's gone, it's in the past.
I feel like that about interior design.
Yeah, no thank you, bye. Just no. I've got a couple of questions, like quick fire ones at the end. So, what would you say your favourite food or drink brand is at the moment?
Oh, I think I was asking what my favourite food is, and I was about to say buffalo mozzarella. But
That's coming.
Do you know what? I am going to have to shout out Moju.
Yeah.
I've known those boys from day one. I sat with them and I taught them what a wholesaler was back in the day when Marigold was a wholesaler.
Gosh, yeah, they had that big fire.
They are lovely, humble, hard-working guys, and I think what they have done is phenomenal. They started with the juices. They've now created an entire category, and I just look at them and they're so consistent, their brand, it's an amazing product. I love the boys behind it, Rich and Charlie, and I'd have to say them at the moment.
Yeah, they've done such a cool job. Their branding is so standout, like it's phenomenal, and yeah, they've really shaken up that category. Yeah.
I like it when a brand owns a colour as well, like we do with pink, and they just do with that orange.
Yeah, it's cool. I'm kind of thinking I need to start writing more red on my podcast, because it is the colour of me, being a redhead, and my surname is Fox, which is also like a reddy orange, so I do need to kind of figure that one out. And then what would you say would be your one biggest bit of advice for somebody listening in at home wanting to start their own product or brand?
Well, it would be to get curious, but I've already answered that, so I'll maybe answer in a slightly different way. It would be just really try and get out there. So when I first launched Cuckoo, we didn't have anything that we have now. Your podcast, Dan Pope's podcast, Jason running Bread and Jam, social media, LinkedIn. I don't even think LinkedIn was really a thing back then.
No.
I mean, the amount of resource and places you can go, you could just, the British Library, you can just throw yourself into it and really build your network, because that's how I learned everything at the beginning, building my network, asking people. So just really throw yourself into the industry you want to join as much as you can. If it's food and drink, you've got a really easy job because there's so much out there.
Yeah, for sure. And the help is like in there in abundance. You just got to ask. And favourite starter, main and dessert?
Okay, so my favourite starter would be buffalo mozzarella, tomatoes not being kept in the fridge, really fresh British tomatoes, and Parma ham with the best olive oil. I'm going to shout out Citizens of Soil, amazing olive oil by an amazing woman called Sarah, someone you should get on the podcast.
Yeah, definitely. I love
fantastic. My main, I'm going to have to say ribeye steak. Since I had a baby, it's all I can eat, so really rare with just a bit of sides of spinach. And then my pudding.
Not in the teeth though.
Not in the teeth. And then, my pudding would be chocolate mousse.
Yeah, delicious.
Yeah.
Well, thank you so much for coming on Getting to Grow. It's been fascinating learning about your journey, and there's so much more I want to ask and understand. My brain is going wild because it's such a fascinating company. Like, your values just screamed to me. So I'm really, really sad the podcast has come to an end, but thank you so much.
Thank you so much for having me. I've really enjoyed it.